Okay, I'm going to get started by just welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Sawadee krab. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is what we call our group learning program, where each Sunday I get together with students and help them to understand the path to enlightenment using this book titled Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. Each Sunday I go chapter by chapter, helping students to be able to understand the foundational teachings that it takes to be able to move the mind to enlightenment. What enlightenment is where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience any discontent feelings. You'll eliminate all your anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of these feelings and others are eliminated from the mind. And this is accomplished through training of the mind. Oftentimes people think it's the outside world or that it's other people that are causing you to be angry or frustrated or any of these other discontent feelings, but it's actually being caused by the mind itself. This is the reason why you can eliminate it. If it was other people that was causing these feelings, you'd never actually be able to eliminate your discontent feelings. But you can actually get to the point where you no longer experience any of those feelings, where your mind's focused and concentrated. You have clarity of mind and deep memory. And one of the things that you need in order to move your mind to this enlightened mental state is meditation. But there's other things besides meditation that you need besides that in order to be able to train your mind to get to enlightenment. But because meditation is so important, we start each one of our classes with meditation so that you can develop your practice. So I'm going to be starting with meditation by doing some chanting to ease into the meditation. The chanting, and I see many of you guys have these chanting sheets. You can get them over there on the cabinet if you don't have one. And for those of you guys online, you can get it on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. You can click on free books and then just scroll down towards the bottom and you'll see it there. Chanting during the lifetime of the Buddha was used as a way to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. This is how they remembered his teachings, because they didn't have YouTube or podcasts or things like this 2,500 years ago. In fact, they didn't even have books. It was impossible for them to be able to capture the teachings in any kind of way like that. So they used chanting or recitation of the teachings in order to be able to commit them to memory. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite or ritual or ceremony or worship or prayer or anything like that. There's none of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. If you're seeing any of those kinds of things related to the teachings of the Buddha never taught those kinds of things. Those are misunderstandings that people are having. So there aren't any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer in the teachings of the Buddha. But chanting is something that's going to help ease your mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So I use this in order to help you to be able to gain more benefit out of the meditation. So you're welcome to chant along if you like. If you read the English translations of the chants, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death, because the Buddha wouldn't have gone around and said, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me. This would be ego or arrogance and putting yourself above people and looking down on people. So the Buddha wouldn't have done that, because by the time you get to enlightenment, you've eliminated your ego. You see yourself as being equal to everybody. So the Buddha wouldn't have taught his students to chant these out of respect for him, coming from him. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to the peace and joy that is the enlightened mental state, and this is a permanent mental state that you'll be experiencing for the rest of this life, and this teacher didn't want anything or expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. Because the Buddha was just teaching out of the kindness of his heart. He already figured out how to get to this peaceful and joyful mental state, but then he had so much love and kindness and compassion for the world that he chose to share his teachings with others to be able to help them to also get to this enlightened mental state. So you're more than welcome to chant along if you like, and you'll see more benefit in your meditation because of it. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to be providing you some guidance. I'll essentially be instructing you and teaching you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. And then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're all meditating. All those of us here at the temple and anybody who's joining us online will just all be meditating at the same time. Now, during this time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You might hear a dog barking, a bird chirping, maybe a car driving past or something like this. You can't be in an environment that is permanently quiet. If your mind is in meditation, craving permanent quietness, when you hear a sound, you'll experience annoyance or frustration or something like this. This is what the mind does in the unenlightened state, is it craves permanence, but yet it lives in an impermanent world. So there's going to be sounds. Someone here might cough or sneeze or something like that. But these sounds will arise, they will change, and then they will fade away. They are impermanent. And you can understand when you hear sounds that the world's functioning exactly the way it was intended to function, where things around you are constantly changing. You'll be able to see that if you look around the world, that you're not going to find anything that's permanent. Everything around you is constantly changing. But the mind craves permanence in the unenlightened state, and that's what's causing these discontent feelings. So during that period of time of quietness, if you hear any sounds, just know that that's the way that the world functions, and you can be at ease with peace and joy and just continuing to focus on your meditation. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting, and that's where I'll start today's class. The topic for today is titled Do No Harm. What is the future of the planet? I'll help you guys to understand what this chapter is all about as we go into our class. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times as part of your journey to enlightenment. And it's kind of like creating a tool belt, that you have these different tools available to you as you're progressing on the path to enlightenment. Because your body's not going to be able to be in the same position permanently. It's impossible, because your body is impermanent, and you're going to need these different positions at different times. Oftentimes people are learning in the seated position, so I'm going to provide you some guidance on that, and then you can learn these other positions in the various courses and classes and retreats that we have available for you. The seated position is kind of like the primary position that a lot of people use. You could be sitting on the floor, in a chair, on a bench, or a sofa, or a wheelchair. You can really sit however you like. There isn't just one fixed way to sit. So the suggestions that I give you are exactly that. They're suggestions, they're recommendations, things for you to consider, because there isn't just one fixed way to sit. If you're on the floor, you might have a cushion under your ear or more. This will kind of help soften your seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here. You could maybe put your palms on your thighs or your knees. Some people like to put their palms up. Some people even rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of anybody who's maybe sitting in a chair, at a bench, or a sofa, or a wheelchair, you can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed, so this is an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This is going to help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched like this, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle, where the sternum's up and the shoulders are back, because this is going to help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. It'll also make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to do this chanting in order to ease into our meditation. You guys are welcome to join in, and then I'm going to come back in with the guidance afterwards. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Wat Tung Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang namasami สุปฏิปันโนมหะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตวามนุสนังปุตโตภะคะวะติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath, not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาโอตังมหาเขวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมดามังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารนังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสตาตาวามนุสรังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. This meditation that we just did is called Breathing Mindfulness Meditation. This is a primary form of training in addition to all the other things that the Buddha taught that's going to help move your mind to enlightenment. This meditation is training your mind to let go, because what's causing the mind to experience things like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, is that the mind is holding on. It's craving permanence. It's wanting things to be a certain way, expecting things to be a certain way in the world. And when the mind gets what it wants, it experiences pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But when the mind doesn't get what it wants, what it expects, what it's craving, what it's longing, yearning for, then it experiences painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. It's the mind itself that is causing these feelings. Oftentimes, the mind believes in the unenlightened state that it's the outside world that's causing your feelings. You might think that it's mom or dad that are frustrating you, or brothers and sisters are irritating you, or maybe you think your boss is annoying you. This just isn't true. You can actually independently verify this through the teachings of the Buddha, where he helps you to be able to see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. This is the reason why he was able to eliminate it by getting to enlightenment, is that it's not the outside world that's causing these feelings. It's actually the mind itself. So when you look at your own mind and you look at your own life, you can see that your mind's craving permanence. The mind's longing, yearning. It's chasing after the objects of its affection, forming its inner feelings based on whether you get that thing or not. And again, if you get what you want, the mind gets those pleasant feelings feelings, but if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets the painful feelings. So look at your own life. Look at a recent time when you've been angry or sad or frustrated or irritated or annoyed or some other discontent feeling. At that time, you might have been trying to blame somebody else for what you were experiencing, because that's what the mind tends to do. It blames other people for what it experiences. But look at it with these fresh eyes. What was your mind longing and yearning for? What was it that you wanted? And if you would have got it, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get it, the mind was angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. If you have trouble seeing this, let me know, because I will help you. I'm going to be stopping here as we go through our class and opening up for questions that you guys might have. We have microphones here in the middle of the room for those of you guys in the temple, that if you guys would like to ask questions, just get a microphone and take it back to your seat where you're at. You can press the gray button, you'll see the lights come on, and you can hold this up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can keep the microphones with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone. And then if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that way we won't get feedback through the speakers. That'd be really helpful. And then for anybody who's online, if you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can ask questions by putting that into the comment section. I'll be able to see that. Or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions you like that way. So you need to be able to see what's causing these discontent feelings in order to be able to eliminate them. The path to enlightenment, the Buddhist teachings, is all about the elimination of discontent feelings. You don't need to walk around with anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. I'm sure you're experiencing those feelings now, but you don't need to continue to walk around with those. You can actually eliminate this from the mind. Just like you opt out of a mailing list and you press a button and you're like unsubscribe, you can actually essentially do the same thing. It's not pressing a button that's going to happen, but you can unsubscribe from these discontent feelings. It just means that you need to cultivate the wisdom of how to do that. And that's what a Buddha does, is they share the wisdom of what it takes to be able to get to that enlightened mental state. So, but the first step of that is being able to see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. So you need to be able to peer into this and see that it's this craving, desire, attachment, longing, yearning, and wanting things to be a certain way. Because as long as you think it's other people that are causing these feelings, you'll tend to be unskillful in your day-to-day life. When you're experiencing anger and you think it's coming from something external, you will tend to push people away, or you'll push a situation away. You might have pushed away friends or family in your life, thinking that that was going to solve your problem, thinking that they were the ones causing you to be angry or irritated. But you can see that that didn't solve your problem, because you still get angry, you still get frustrated or agitated or annoyed. Or the other thing that the mind will do is it'll tend to be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another being, trying to fear it into doing things your way. Or the third thing you might do is you might put your expectations on people and try to pressure people or force people to do things your way. And you might even have people doing this to you too, where people are pushing you away. They're being bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, or they're putting their expectations on you. And this is coming from the mind's misunderstanding of what the real problem is and the cause of that problem. They think that the problem is external, but the problem is actually in their own mind, that the mind's craving, desiring, longing, yearning, wanting things to be a certain way. So for example, if you got a brand new car and you were really excited about this car and you parked it at a store and you went inside and you came outside and there's a scratch on your car, you might be frustrated or agitated or annoyed with this. This isn't the scratch that's causing it. It's not the person who scratched your car. They're not the ones who are causing you to be frustrated. It's the mind craving permanence, wanting this car to be permanently beautiful. Now, we're not talking about what's wise or unwise, because obviously when we walk through a parking lot, we aspire not to scratch anybody's car. But the fact is that this car is impermanent. It's going to get a scratch. The paint's going to fade. The tires are going to need to be changed. The upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. It's going to happen. It's only a matter of time. So when your mind is craving permanence and you're experiencing this impermanence, then the mind doesn't like that, because it doesn't understand the world around you is impermanent. Everything around you is constantly changing. Anything you can see, hear, smell, taste, anything that comes in contact with the body, or any thoughts or ideas that go through the mind, this is all impermanent. It's constantly changing. Things are arising, they're changing, and they're fading away. So for example, if someone gets really happy and excited when it's sunny outside, they'll be frustrated and agitated or annoyed when it rains. Or if they get really happy and excited when their bank account balance is up here, they'll get annoyed and frustrated when it goes down here. The only thing that's happened here is change. It just moved from sun to rain. That's it. And your bank account balance moved from here to here. That's it. This is how you can see that it's not other people that are causing you to be angry and frustrated, because there's no other person involved. It just went from sun to rain. It just went from bank account balance from here to here. That's all that's happened is change. But if you base your inner feelings of happiness on some external condition, then when that changes, and it will change, your mind's going to move to the painful feelings. So the path to enlightenment is about training your mind to not base its inner feelings on some external circumstance, where you can have permanent peace and permanent joy, permanent happiness in the mind. What you're experiencing in the unenlightened state is conditional happiness, where based on some condition, you will then be happy. But when that condition is no longer met, the mind moves to the painful feelings. So essentially, if my mom and dad do this, if my boss does this, if the weather is this, if my bank account is this, if my brothers and sisters do this, if I have this type of house, this type of car, this amount of money in my bank account, then I'll be happy. Right? All those things being true is very unlikely. And you shrink your ability to be happy because all those things have to be true before the mind can be happy. But when you get rid of all of that conditional happiness, you can get to unconditional happiness, where there doesn't need to be any condition met in order for the mind to be happy and joyful. So what the Buddha's teachings do is they bring your mind to the understanding that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, so that then you can actually apply the tools and techniques to actually fix it. Again, if it's the outside world that's causing these feelings, you would never be able to actually eliminate them. So you can have a breakthrough to being able to see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. So I'm going to stop here for a moment just to see if there's any questions about how the mind causes its own feelings. Remember, you can use the microphones here. For those of you guys online, you can put this into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Does anybody here have any questions about how your mind is causing these feelings itself? Because it's important that you independently verify these teachings. None of the teachings of the Buddha are based in belief. You're not believing what I'm saying. It's important that you learn and grow and develop, and you see the truth for yourself. So is there any questions from anybody that has needs to help with understanding that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings? No questions? Okay. So back to the meditation. Oh, yes, sir. Yeah. If you can get a microphone here, that would be great. You're welcome to keep it with you because other people might have a question as well.
Hello. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering, what's the ultimate goal of doing this? Like, what are we purchasing? It's like peacefulness or happiness, or what do you say about this?
Both. So by the time you get to enlightenment, your mind will be completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. It's a permanent mental state. It's impossible for your mind to be shaken up by the time you get to enlightenment. It'll be steady and calm and stable. Your mind will have focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory, because the Buddha discovered these pollutions that are in the mind. And when you uproot those pollutions and get them out of the mind will perform optimally. You'll notice focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory in the mind because it's now performing optimally. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming, that they're at ease, because in the unenlightened state, you'll be bitter and harsh and hostile, and this is damaging your relationships. As long as you're putting out harm will come back to you in your day-to-day life and in your relationships. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even have a bad mood. It's physically impossible for you to experience a bad mood because the causes and conditions that are producing that have been uprooted and eliminated out of the mind. So the ultimate goal is to purify your mind, just like you clean your body every day, you need to be able to clean the mind too, because there's more than just a body here. Oftentimes we learn growing up as children, our parents teach us to clean the body, and we clean the body pretty much every day. As we grow up and we get older. Of course, when we were children, we didn't want to do that. We were playing with our toys and our friends and video games and all of that. But eventually we get to the point where we see the benefit in cleaning the body, so we do it every day. But there's this other part to this being that you may or may not be addressing, which is the mind. And if you're not cleaning up the mind, then just like if you walked around with a dirty body, you'd feel uncomfortable. If you went a couple of days or a couple of weeks or a couple of months or a couple of years without washing this body, you'd feel pretty uncomfortable. If you've been going that amount of time without cleaning the mind, that's why there's stress and anxiety and all these other feelings, because the mind lacks wisdom of how to train itself to be able to now purify itself, to be able to get to the point where there's nothing but peace and joy in the mind. So now you're in a place where people understand how to train the mind. And this is where you can produce more and more peacefulness in your mind. And by the time you're training your mind fully and get to enlightenment, it's a permanent mental state that you'll be experiencing for the rest of this life, where the mind's completely peaceful and joyful, along with all those other qualities as well. Mm-hmm. You have a question?
Yes. And I would love to believe it's all my fault to be angry, to be unsatisfied. But sometimes I believe there are jerks in my life. There are nasty, annoying people. They just suck. So is that the right way for me to force me to believe those people are actually nice people? It's all my fault that ruins my day.
Okay, so first of all, there's nothing in the teachings of the Buddha that is describing fault. Who's at fault? That's a perspective and a perception that you need to get rid of. You'll never hear me say this is your fault. That's going to just degrade your mind and make you think in ways that is unwise. Also, you're not interested in believing anything. I'm not here to convince you to believe anything whatsoever. Instead, I'm inviting you to learn and examine and investigate what it is that I'm sharing with you, so that then you can reflect on it, to independently verify it, and then you can practice it and see the truth for yourself. But you need to be willing to peer into this, and you got to get over that whole idea of who's at fault or who's to blame or anything like that, because every single being who's ever been born has been unenlightened. And if you're going around the world to look at who's at fault and who's to blame, this is just your mind trying to determine, who's at fault and who's to blame. And oftentimes it's coming from the mind's ego, where the mind thinks I'm so great and everybody else is bad, or everybody else is a jerk, or something like this. This is the mind having ill will towards others. What's happening here is you have a certain craving, you have a certain expectation. You want things to be a certain way. That's the mind craving every single person to be a certain way. And if they're that way, you like them and you think they're great people. But if they don't meet your expectations and do things the way you want, that's where you look at them and you dislike them, or you might call them a jerk or something like that. You need to be able to understand the world is full of impermanence. Not everybody talks the same. Not everybody sits the same. Not everybody does things the same in the world. That would be permanence, but we live in an impermanent world where everybody does things differently. So if you can only love people and like people who do things your way, then there's only one person in the world that you can ever love or you can ever like, because there's only one person in the world that does things your way. Do you know who that is? Yourself, right? You're the only one. So you need to be able to understand impermanence, that things are constantly changing, that things are different. People are going to do things differently than you, and that doesn't make them right or wrong. It's just different. It doesn't mean you're to blame or at fault. It's just different. But with the mind's ego, you'll think my way is the right way and everybody else's way is the wrong way. And now when they do it differently than you, you'll look down on them with the ego. So you need to be able to get past this blame and fault, get past this idea that you need to believe in something, get past this idea of me even trying to convince you of anything. I'm inviting students to be able to learn and investigate and examine the teachings and see the truth for themselves. Because if you can see the truth for yourself, you can break through and you can be able to then learn and grow and develop on the path where I'm not telling you that you have to think about any one particular person in any particular way. I'm inviting you to be able to see the truth so that then you can train your mind and experience a better way of life where you can have peace and joy. And sure, other people are going to do things differently than you, and you will disagree with them, right? But you can disagree with the choices and decisions that somebody makes while still loving the person. Loving a person doesn't mean you agree with all their decisions. Love means you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well, understanding they are responsible for their own wellness, but you can disagree with a person's choices and decisions while still loving the person. But sometimes people aren't understanding this. They misunderstand what love is. So you need to be able to peer into this, not believe it, but peer into it, because the teachings of the Buddha aren't about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. It's about learning, growing, and developing now in this life so that you can get to a peaceful and joyful life now in this life. And the more you learn and practice his teachings, you'll be able to see that that's exactly what is occurring.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so if you guys need any help to be able to see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, let me know. I've had plenty of students over the years that have had questions. One time I had a student contact me and they said, David, I really need your help. I said, okay, what is it? They're like, I just can't see that my mind is causing these feelings. I went to work this morning and my house looked beautiful. And when I came home 8 hours later, 10 hours later from work, my wife had this craft project all over the house, and I instantly got frustrated when I walked in the house. How did my mind cause these feelings? Wasn't it my wife that caused these feelings? I wasn't even there. She's the one who messed up the house. I said, no, it was your own mind because you were craving permanence. You had the expectation that your house was going to look exactly the same way when you came home as when you went to work. And it's just not possible because of the universal truth of impermanence. Sometimes your house is going to look one way. Sometimes it's going to look another way. Sometimes it's going to look another way. There's going to be change. But as long as this person's mind was craving permanence, when they went to work, they were expecting the house to look exactly the same when they came home, and it didn't look that way. The only thing that had happened is that there was change. That was it. But the mind craves permanence, not understanding impermanence in the world. So what this meditation's doing that we just did, this breathing mindfulness meditation, is it's training your mind to let go. Because that's what the mind's going to do in the unenlightened state is hold on. It craves permanence. It wants things to be a certain way. So the goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. It's not to, do that, because as long as you're alive, you're going to have thoughts. So the goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts. It's to notice them sooner and sooner and let them go easier and easier. Even in the enlightened mental state, you'll still experience thoughts during your meditation. The difference is in the unenlightened state, you'll have a bombardment of thoughts. It'll be like thought. Or you'll have a thought and then you'll follow it for a period of time. You'll play with it. You'll look at it. You'll indulge in it. And you're like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back, So this is what's going to be experienced in the unenlightened state. But as you grow and develop and you train your mind further with meditation and other teachings, you'll get to the point where in the enlightened mental state, you'll have a thought. Then there's quietness and stillness in between the thoughts for like 30 seconds or a minute, and then you'll have another thought. And when you have that thought as an enlightened being, you'll notice it right away and you'll cut it off and let it go and bring the mind back to the breath. So the goal is to notice your thoughts sooner and sooner and cut them off and let them go easier and easier. Because what's happening in your day-to-day life is as you're being bitter and harsh and hostile to people in your relationships, it's all just coming back to you. But it's not the outside world that's causing these feelings. So one of the things that the Buddha is teaching you, among all the other things, is his teachings are based in harmlessness, where you're disinterested or incapable of causing harm to others. Just like people can't cause you to be discontent, you can't cause other people to be discontent either. So if there's people in your life that are blaming you for their anger and their frustration, you're not causing that anger and frustration, but you can cause people harm. These are two different things. Causing someone discontentedness is not possible, because if there's anger, frustration, or agitation or something like this in somebody's mind, they're causing it themselves because of their craving, desire, attachment. They're longing, they're yearning. Their mind is holding on. It hasn't been trained to let go. But you can cause this person harm. Causing someone harm is to cause harm to their physical body, to their material possessions, or their reputation. And even if you're causing harm and somebody becomes discontent, their mind is still causing their discontentedness, but they're more likely to become discontent if you cause harm to someone's physical body, to their material possessions, or their reputation. So whenever you put out harm through your intentions, your speech, your actions, your livelihood, whenever you're causing harm through anything that you're choosing to do in the world, that harm is going to come back to you. So the Buddhist teachings are based in harmlessness, where you're disinterested or incapable of causing harm. His teachings are also based in the understanding that whatever you experience in life is coming from decisions that you're making. There are certain decisions that you're making that's leading to any particular result that you experience in day-to-day life. This is referred to as the natural law of karma. You might have heard the word karma being used. This is the Sanskrit version of this word. The original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language, so people who study his teachings will tend to use the word karma. What this means is cause and effect, or action and result, the results of your decisions. That whenever you make a decision, either wisely or unwisely, it's going to produce wholesome karma, or wholesome results, or if it's an unwise decision, it will produce unwholesome karma, or unwholesome results. So the natural law of karma isn't anything mystical or magical. It's not about who's to blame or who's at fault. It's not any, to determine, who's wrong or who's right. There's nothing mystical or magical about this natural law. There's no being who's overseeing it to determine who gets punished and who gets rewarded. That's not the natural law of karma at all. Instead, it's about your decisions are going to lead to any particular result. And typically what happens in the unenlightened state is when we make decisions that produce wholesome results for us, we're like, wow, that's all because of me. I'm the one who's making all those decisions. And that's the reason why I'm getting all these wholesome things in my life. But then when you're experiencing unwholesome things in your life, you might be blaming this on other people. You can't have it both ways. That's not the way the world truly works. That it's not other people that are producing the things that you're experiencing in your day-to-day life. So you can see more and more clearly that what you're experiencing is a result of your decisions. It's not good luck or bad luck. It's not destiny or fate. It's not God or some entity called the universe. And it's not other people that are causing you to experience these things. It's decisions that you're making that's leading to any particular result. Your life is a collection of the decisions that you're making. And if you aren't seeing this truth for yourself, because remember, you're not interested in believing anything, ask yourself these questions. Who chose where you're sitting right now? Who chose your hairstyle? Who chose the clothing that you're wearing right now? Who chose whether or not you ate breakfast this morning? Who chose where you live? Who chose your job and occupation? Who chose the friends and family members that you spend time with? We could go on and on and on here. You can see that it's you that's making all these choices, right? There's no guilt or shame that you need to feel and experience because of the choices and decisions that you're making. There's a certain lack of wisdom in the mind that it just doesn't understand this natural law and what leads to any particular results. It's just like when we were growing up, we didn't understand the natural law of gravity. This is why we fell down, we hit our head, we bumped our elbows, we broke our toys. We had lots of difficulties and struggles with this natural law of gravity because we just didn't understand what we didn't understand. And this natural law was affecting us whether we were aware of it or not. Well, there's other natural laws that are affecting us whether we're aware of it or not. And when you lack wisdom of it, you'll go out into the world, make unwise decisions, and you'll experience unwholesome results. So the more you awaken to this natural law, meaning cultivate wisdom about this natural law, now you can navigate the world peacefully and joyfully because you're not struggling and having difficulties any longer. So this natural law of karma is helping you to be able to see that it's your decisions that are leading to any particular result. So if there's anything that you don't particularly care for that is happening in your day-to-day life, all you need to do in order to change that is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. But if you don't do that and we just keep blaming other people for the things that we're experiencing, then we never cultivate wisdom, we never make different decisions, and we keep experiencing the same results over and over and over again. So this is very empowering, that if you can see that it's your own decisions that are leading to any particular result, well, if you don't like what you're experiencing, cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you experience different results. It's kind of like if you were walking down the beach and you had wind that was blowing in your face. And as you're walking down the beach, you're kicking up sand, and the sand is blowing back in your face. Well, if you don't like the results of this, cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you experience different results. Hey, maybe I shouldn't kick up sand. Maybe I should walk a little bit more lightly over the beach. Well, now that you've cultivated that wisdom, you start making different decisions. You walk softer on the beach, you don't kick up sand anymore, and now you experience different results. It's very clear and easy to see, but the unenlightened mind, because of its lack of wisdom, has difficulty seeing this. And that's what a Buddha does, is they're able to see these natural laws very clearly, and then they explain them to other people, and then they invite you to not believe those teachings, but instead to learn, investigate, and examine them, to reflect on them, to independently verify it, and then practice it and see the truth for yourself. So the teachings of the Buddha are based in harmlessness, where you're disinterested in causing harm to others and incapable of doing so, because anytime you put out harm, harm comes back to you, because of the natural law of karma. And his teachings bring your mind to the attention that it's your own decisions that are leading to any particular result that you experience in your day-to-day life. So this chapter 21 that I'm sharing this book, it's titled Do No Harm, What is the Future of the Planet? Because all throughout the book and all throughout this group learning program, I've been teaching students the foundational teachings that it takes to be able to lead to enlightenment. Things like the 3 universal truths, the 4 noble truths, the Eightfold Path, the 5 precepts, meditation training, and countless other things that I've been sharing over the last 6 months or so. And now we're coming towards the end of this book where I wrote this chapter about the future of the planet. Because what the Buddha is teaching you is harmlessness, and any decisions that we make are going to produce a certain result, and we would like to be sure that we're not causing harm in the world, and that it's our decisions that are leading to any particular result. And anybody who's in the world would be conscious of how it is that we interact with this world. Because whether somebody has researched to be able to see climate change or the future of the planet and how we're using resources or not, it's wise to bring your attention to how we choose to interact with the planet. Because what we choose to do is going to determine what we experience and what future beings on this planet experience as well. If we choose to cause harm to the resources that are here on the planet, then that harm is going to be returned to us. If we pollute our water, then we are going to experience polluted water. If we pollute the earth, then we're going to experience that. If we damage our natural habitat, then we're going to experience the results of that. So while the Buddha talked at different times about ensuring that we're not causing harm and kind of mentioning about treating the world nicely and not causing harm to things in the world, we can also understand this now through what scientists are sharing with us, that it appears that over the course of multiple generations, we've caused harm to the planet. And an individual who's moving to a higher consciousness and thinking about how we interact with the planet, it would be wise for us to think about this and consider certain choices and decisions that we're making that could potentially cause harm, and making sure that we either reduce or eliminate that as much as possible. So in this particular chapter, I just help students to start thinking about this, right? I'm not, again, trying to convince anybody of anything, but instead just helping students to be able to be aware and conscious that whatever choices we make about how we interact with the planet, it's going to produce certain results for us. And when I was writing this chapter, I went out and started doing some research, and what I came back with after looking at multiple sources is 2 things that pretty much most people agree to, that it would be wise for each individual person to do that could improve the health of our planet. Because sometimes when we think about the health of the planet, we're like, gosh, this place is so large and so big. How could just one person's decisions impact the health of the planet? because we've got these large corporations and companies that are making really big decisions, and there might be a lot of pollution that's going into the world. And we think, well, what can we do as an individual to really solve that, right? And sometimes we can feel like we're handcuffed or we're limited in our ability to be able to really affect improvement or with something like pollution of the planet. Well, there's research by multiple different places that give two different things that an individual could do that would actually improve the health of the planet if each individual chose to do just these two things. The first one that they come back with is they share that it would be wise if we move to a plant-based food supply. Whether you choose to do that or not, that's a choice for you to make. I'm not here to convince you to do that. I don't want you to do that. I don't expect you to do that. But this is something that would be helpful, not only for the planet, but for your own body and your own mind as well. That when you're eating animal flesh, it produces disease and illness in the body that is more than if you ate plants. You'll notice that if you look, there's actually certain substances in animal flesh. If they've actually done research where they've taken wild fish out of clean running streams, and they've seen that there's substances in the flesh that shouldn't be there, because us humans have flushed things like antidepressants and cocaine and things like this into the water table. So when they tested the animal flesh of the fish, they saw that there was these substances in the actual fish that shouldn't be there. So people are eating wild salmon, for example, but they're also eating certain toxins as well, like antidepressants and cocaine and things like this. There was over 90 different substances in the flesh of the animal that wasn't supposed to be there. So nowadays with farmed animals and things like this, we're introducing a lot of different substances into the animals that we now ingest. Because at one time when we came into this world, we were actually plant-based eaters. Human beings only ate plants. The researchers tell us this, the scientists tell us this, but we don't need to believe them because nothing that we do is based in belief. We would like to see the truth for ourselves. And the way that you can independently verify this is look at your teeth. That our human teeth are very similar to a cow's teeth and a horse's teeth, which they actually eat plants. That's what they eat. And our teeth are almost exactly similar to theirs. Whereas if you look at an animal that eats meat, like a lion or a tiger, our teeth don't resemble those because we don't have the ripping and tearing capability of like a lion and a tiger. So our teeth are actually based on eating plants. And that's what we did for a really long time throughout human history. But then our population became too large that we actually needed to start eating meat because we ran out of plants in the forest. So we saw animals killing other animals and eating them. So we started to become scavengers, where we started running animals away from their kill, and we started taking over their kill, and we started eating their meat. That wasn't enough meat for us, so then we did organized hunting, and we started doing organized hunts where we all got together and we started killing animals ourselves. That wasn't enough meat for us, so then we started doing manufactured farming, where that's where we are today, where we manufacture animals. And then in that process, individual who's looking to make a lot of profit might put antibiotics and growth hormones and things like this into the animal in order to grow it really fast so that then they can make more profit. And now if you're eating that stuff, you're actually eating the drugs and hormones and toxins that are being put into those animals, and it's affecting the health of your body. So what they did is they looked at an acre of land, for example, and they said how much land is needed to support, say, 100 kilos of meat. And let's just say it's an acre of land. And they took that same acre of land and they said, how much kilos of plants could we make and create on this same plot of land? And it's something, depending on the plant, it's somewhere between 20,000 to 50,000 kilos of something like broccoli or cauliflower or something like this that can be produced on that same land. So in terms of using our resources and reducing the impact to the planet, the researchers and things that you'll find out in the public pretty much agree that moving to a plant-based food supply is something that we can do as an individual that will significantly improve the health of our planet. Then the second thing that they recommended is that we don't waste our food. That apparently in the USA, about 40% of all food is wasted. And it's not just the wasted food, it's the resources that go into producing it. Because as a farmer, you're driving to the store, you're buying seeds, for example, you're bringing them home, you're using gasoline and other things and water to be able to plant these plants. They're now growing, you're now harvesting them, you're now packaging them, you're taking them back to the market. There's individuals who are going to the market to purchase those products, they're bringing them home, and now there's a whole process of using certain resources. And as those resources are being used, now there's a certain waste involved. And 40% of it in one country like the US is going to waste. And what scientists and researchers suggest is that we make sure that we eat all our food and we don't waste our food. So these are two things that you'll see in chapter 21, and you'll see in certain research that is available for us to be able to understand that these are two things that we could actually do to improve the way we interact with the planet. But what I typically do on this particular topic is, rather than tell you what you should or shouldn't be doing, because I'm not interested in doing that. I'm just sharing research with you, sharing with you things that I've learned. Instead, what I typically do here with this particular topic, which is different than other topics in the book, where I actually usually teach you the teachings of the Buddha. Instead, what I like to do with this particular chapter is just have an open discussion with you guys, because I'm sure that there are certain things that you guys are doing that are actually helpful for the planet, that maybe there's certain decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis that is beneficial, and you found them to be beneficial for the planet. And now with all of us here, if anybody would like to share certain things that you're actually doing in order to improve the way you interact with the planet, this is a good way for us to share ideas, share thoughts. And now maybe you can hear some ideas of things that would be helpful for you that maybe you're not currently doing, that you could integrate into your life in order to be able to improve how you interact with the planet. So if you guys have thoughts or ideas of things that you would like to share, you're welcome to get a microphone. Those of you guys online, you can put it in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom. And by the end of our conversation, maybe you walk away with one or two or three things that you didn't think about that are really easy for you to do, that you can walk away with and choose to now make different decisions about how you interact with the planet. And now, as a collective group, now we're out there interacting with the planet in a more healthy way. So if there's people who would like to share, you're more than welcome to do that. I just shared two things with you guys that I came across, and these are two things that I choose to do. I did move to a plant-based food supply. I do choose to eat all my food and waste as minimal amount of food as possible. And this has been really helpful in my life to be able to help improve the health of the body and the mind, as well as feel better about how I'm interacting with the planet. So if there's things that you guys are doing that are different than this would be helpful to share. And I've heard many students over the years share different ideas that have actually been incorporated into my life. So if you guys have something you would like to share, I'm just going to lead an open discussion here where you guys can share anything and everything you like. And if you have questions about the teachings of the Buddha, you're more than welcome to ask those too during this discussion, and I'll be able to help you. So is there someone who has a question or someone who would like to share their thoughts or ideas about things that you're currently doing and the way that you interact with the planet? It's like this gentleman is going to have something. Yeah.
I am currently doing two things that I consider very environment friendly. Mm-hmm. Number one is I stopped, not completely, but I stopped buying veggies. I'm building my own kitchen garden. Mm-hmm. I grow most of my veggies for myself, for my family. Mm-hmm. That's one thing, number one. The other thing is for last 3-4 years, I moved to a strong building. I'm currently living in a building with very thick walls. Mm-hmm. And I paid for expensive windows too. So in that case, I stopped using AC and heating in winter completely. Yeah, for the whole year, I have no cost on billings, power billings on that, AC or heating. I think that's lower carb life. Yeah, that's the second thing I'm doing. And that's what I want to share now. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I can see the benefit in that because by growing your own vegetables, there's less pollution going back and forth to the store to be able to acquire those goods, and then less resources to heat and cool your home. That's perfect.
I'll add another benefit for staying in a house without any AC or heating is for the last 6-7 years, I kind of never catch a cold. It's like never, yeah. Cause I'm used to hot and cold temperature. Yeah, that's the benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Somebody else would like to share? Marta has something to share. Or maybe you guys have questions you would like to ask. Go ahead.
I think what I like to do is to buy secondhand, just not to produce much.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very easy in Thailand. There's lots of secondhand shops here. And try to really pay attention how things are packaged. So maybe there can be less packaging added, and try to use reusable bags and look at the plastic that we're having around. So those are like simple things, and maybe use public transport if it's available, or a scooter instead of a car, and all of those, maybe bike. So all of those things.
Yeah, those are great. Here several years ago, Thailand went to an effort of trying to reduce plastic bag use. They actually had this program for a few months where at 7-Eleven, that's where people used to use a lot of plastic bags, that if you didn't use plastic bags, they were going to donate a certain amount of money to this female hospital in Bangkok. It was a Queen's hospital. So for several months, when we went to 7-Eleven, they would say, would you like a bag or not? And if you declined the bag, then there was a certain amount of money that got allocated to this hospital as a donation. And every time you went into 7-Eleven on the register, it had a certain amount of money that you could see as an entire country that was being donated to this hospital. And it was quite high by the time it was done. And it was just a couple of months, and 7-Eleven donated a significant amount of money to this hospital, which was helping women to eliminate breast cancer and do breast cancer research and stuff like this. So those types of efforts are really helpful because it helps to reduce the harm to the planet, but then we're actually using it in a way to help human beings to be able to be healthier. So these kinds of efforts can be really nice in the community. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? Yeah, you just need to wait a second or two. Go ahead and press it. Press the gray button. There's a gray button on there. And then once the light comes on, it just takes a second or two.
Oh, great. Hello.
There you go.
I suppose this is probably a bit more of a basic one, but it was just on my mind because I just arrived from India, where it's kind of common for people to litter, and it was quite shocking for me. It's like something that I always try and do is, if I've got some rubbish, just keep it with me and take it home until I can, dispose of it properly. But it's, not just there, but back home in the UK, it's something that I notice people just dropping their rubbish, littering. And it always struck me as being like one of the most disrespectful things to the planet that you could do.
Yeah. Yeah, this is how we evolve as human beings. I remember growing up as a child. I grew up in the USA. I remember driving down the road, and if we had trash in the car, we would just toss it out the window. That was what we were taught, right? And then over time, we realized like, whoa, this is unwise. They started having this adopt a highway program where people would walk down the street and pick up trash and stuff like this. And we started learning how unwise that was. So as a human beings, we evolved and we became better and we stopped littering, right? But there's still some populations that don't see the importance of that. Even growing up as a kid, when I had my first car and my family taught me how to change the oil in my car, I remember them teaching me to just dump the oil in the woods or dump it in the sewer, right? And then as I got older, I realized like, whoa, this is unwise. And you start going to certain facilities that can capture the oil and, recycle it or somehow dispose of it properly and things of this nature. And then as we get older, we learn that there's other types of vehicles now, right? They're inventing hydrogen vehicles where it has like zero emissions, right? It's just water vapor. And that's going to be coming in the next 10, 15, 20 years. There's already companies that have invented hydrogen engines that are able to be powered by water, and they can go, 1,600 kilometers with one refill of this hydrogen. And now the only thing it emits is water. So as humanity grows and evolves and we gain more wisdom, we make different decisions. And when we see these things, we need to be able to understand that maybe we're making different decisions, but there's still other populations in the world that aren't. Maybe they haven't had access to that same amount of understanding that we now have. And this is where it's important that we never judge other people. We never look down on other people for the choices that they're making, because at one time we might have made those same choices ourselves, right? Like I understand. I used to litter. I used to, do harm to the earth. But now as a human being moving higher and higher to this higher consciousness, we start making different decisions. And that's what it means to cultivate wisdom. And that's what the Buddha is teaching as part of his path, is to cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and experience different results. So this is great to be able to share this idea of how we can improve our decisions. And when we see other people aren't making those same decisions, we understand that that's impermanence and not everybody makes decisions the same way. And then if we would like, we can do things like helping to educate others if they choose to learn. Like right now, we're live streaming this all over the world. So if somebody chooses to look at this video, they'll learn these kinds of things. And this is the way wisdom spreads throughout humanity nowadays, much more quickly than it once did during the lifetime of the Buddha. So any questions about the teachings of the Buddha, or anything else that you guys would like to share about thoughts or ideas of things you're doing to help interact with the planet in a beneficial way? Yeah, Joe.
Yeah, I've been in Chiang Mai now just over a year. It's probably one of the smallest cities I've ever been in. And there's absolutely zero reason to use a scooter here. So, my personal opinion, I've gone almost 16 months without using any oil.
Mm-hmm.
The only oil I use is whatever these cups are made out of,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, most of my life I've driven a car and filled that gas tank up with oil. I do know that, factory farming is causing problems in the planet, but oil is probably a real big problem. So if you can do whatever you possibly can to stay away from that stuff, that's a big idea. And this is day 4 with no phone. No phone. So that's a big deal for me. Thank you.
Yeah. These are personal decisions that we can make depending on how we arrange our life, right? Like sometimes you can live in the city like this and not have a motorbike. But again, maybe other people aren't able to do that kind of thing. And that's where we make our own individual decisions that work for us, because everything the Buddha taught is about the middle way. Right? If we go to one side or the other, that's where discontentedness is. So, for example, I had a person one time tell me, they said that they tried to go car free and motorbike free for a long period of time, but they were riding their bicycle like an hour and a half to get to work. And when they got there, they were hot and sweaty and all this kind of stuff. And they were like, it just didn't work for me. And I was like, yeah, because you're not in the middle way, right? So, going to the point where you're wasting all kinds of oil and gas and all of that stuff, that's one side. But going all the way to the other side where maybe you're driving your bicycle to work for an hour and a half and you're hot and sweaty when you get there, and it's just impractical for you to be able to drive 3 hours a day on your bicycle back and forth to work, you got to find that middle way. And maybe it involves moving closer to your work, or maybe it involves some other decisions like this. But we can always look at our decisions and see where can we tweak this life and make decisions differently that are going to interact with the planet differently. And then those are decisions that we feel comfortable with where we're in the middle way. Yeah. So you found your middle with transportation for now. Yeah, that's good. Anything else? Yeah, Joycelyn.
One of the things that I've been seeing in the United States is that people in neighborhoods are starting to have small collective gardens, and sometimes on the rooftop, or people have backyards and remove their fences and do table farming. And of course, this saves a lot again between cars, gives fresher food and less food wasting. I know that the restaurants cannot reuse food, and you see dumpsters full of food that is usable, and yet we have people who don't have enough food. And so there's a solution there somewhere. One of the things that for me here in Chiang Mai, what I was not able to do in the United States is I can walk to get my food. I can buy just what I need for a day or 2 days, as opposed to storing food that has the potential to spoil, or I have to eat food that it has processed things in it. So the lifestyle here is more amenable for to be kinder to the planet and not throw away so much food. As a child, I remember we had to clean our plates, and I thought that was horrible. And now I understand, of course.
Yeah. At the end of this chapter, for anybody who's seen it, I've got a picture of an empty plate with a fork. That was me and my son went to a restaurant and we were eating, and I was in the process of writing this book, and I saw these empty plates on the table, and I was like, that's a beautiful picture. I'm just going to take that picture and put it at the end of the book. So if you look at the end of this chapter, there's just an empty plate there, which I think is beautiful, right? To be able to eat all your food and not waste. And that was one of the things that they were talking about too, when I saw that they were saying like 1 acre of land produces 100 kilos of meat versus 20,000 kilos of vegetables. They were saying they were talking about famine and how people have a scarcity of food, and they were saying that this would actually help to eliminate famine as well, because there's some populations of people that don't have enough food, and this would be a way to improve that as well. Anybody else would like to share? Anybody have any thoughts you'd like to share? Any questions you guys have about the teachings of the Buddha? I know I just gave you just a little bit at the beginning, just a little bit of the teachings of the Buddha, because I was just kind of helping you guys to, be able to learn this particular chapter.
I know you've been explaining along the way a little bit, but can you please elaborate more on the difference between the natural law of karma and what I know as the karma?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference?
It's actually the same thing, just a different language. So the Sanskrit language, they will use the word karma. And then the Pali language, which is just a different language, but that's what the original teachings of the Buddha are captured in, they use the word gamma. So in the Sanskrit language, they will call dharma, karma, nirvana. In the Pali language, it's dhamma, gamma, nibbana. And for me, I just teach everything in English. There's only 2 Pali words that I still need to use, which is gamma and jhana. They don't actually translate to just one English word, so that's why I still need to use the Pali language for those 2 words. But it's pointing to the same natural law, just a different language, like Chinese and English, just using 2 different languages to point to the same exact thing.
Thank you. But I want to know is, for example, the laws of physics part of the natural law of karma?
So the natural law of karma is an umbrella that every other natural law fits under, because the natural law of karma is teaching this cause and effect, or this action and result, that whenever you make a decision, there's going to be a certain result or a certain consequence that's going to come because of that. I'm not a scientist and I don't know science very well, but I think it was it Newton or somebody that had, like, for every action there's a reaction. It's the same thing that is, the natural law of karma is essentially teaching, is that whenever you make a decision, there's going to be a result. So one of the things that the Buddha teaches you, the basis of his teachings, is discernment, is wise decision making. But it's very difficult to get to that when you don't understand the natural law. You'll go out into the world making decisions that you think have all the best intentions and that are so wise, and next thing you know, it blows up on you and you don't understand why. And this is where the mind lacks wisdom in this natural law. If you've ever watched the news, or if you've ever heard about something from your family and you're just like, I don't understand why they keep doing that. I just don't understand. This is the mind lacking wisdom about how the world truly works. If you understand these natural laws and what the Buddha taught, you'll understand. When you watch the news and you hear things that your family's doing, you'll fully understand why these things are occurring. So when I watch the news now, I watch it very differently than I used to when I didn't understand the natural law of karma. Now I understand exactly why these things are occurring based on the cause and effect of how this natural law happens in your day-to-day life. So this natural law is helping you to see that cause and effect, and science is essentially proving all these things that the Buddha taught as part of his teachings, now that we have modern science to be able to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I don't see any other questions anywhere. Let me just check online here. Okay, I don't see any other questions anywhere. So what I'm going to do then is just end class by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and grow and develop on the path to enlightenment. If you guys would like to learn more, there's plenty of opportunities to do that. This is kind of a rare chapter where I just kind of come in, share a little bit with you guys, and just open up to a discussion. Typically, I'm teaching what the teachings of the Buddha are and helping you to be able to see that very closely, so that then you can learn it, you can reflect on it, independently verify it, and you can practice it in training your mind and moving the mind closer and closer to enlightenment. There's a core central teaching that the Buddha taught called the Eightfold Path, that's the place for people to start out with. This first book that I share as part of the book series, that's the best place to start, and you can actually get this for free. You can download it from our website for free. You can take it and go print it yourself if you like. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can order it on Amazon. All these different ways you can get access to it. Essentially, what the teachings of the Buddha are for is it's to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. But what's hurting you is within one's own mind. It's not the outside world. As long as you keep going around trying to change other people, you'll never actually be able to fix what's going on within your own mind, because it's not the outside world that's causing these difficulties, and you can't train 8 billion people to do things your way in the world. But by focusing on the real issue, which is in one's own mind, you can actually get to the peace and joy. So that first book is the best place to start. And we have different classes and courses and retreats to be able to help you that are all available at no cost. Even personal guidance, you can get help. This evening at 6:30, I'm going to be teaching meditation over in the main hall. If you guys are coming for the Sunday night walking market, or if you'd like to come by, you're welcome to stop into the main hall at 6:30. We're going to be doing loving kindness meditation this evening, which is a meditation to help eliminate your anger, hatred, and ill will, and all the lesser versions like frustration, agitation, and annoyance. You can actually transform this out of your mind. So I'm going to be teaching that meditation over there and doing it with students this evening. So you're welcome to attend that at 6:30. And then at 9 p.m. tonight, I'm going to be having this same class here where we'll be doing meditation together. And then I'll just have the same type of discussion with whoever shows up this evening at 9 p.m. as well. And then on Wednesday here at the classroom at 9 a.m., we also have a class where I'll be doing loving kindness meditation again with students. attendance, and then opening up to whatever questions they might have. So there's a calendar over there on the bulletin board that you'll see all of our events and all that stuff, and you'll see it on our website as well. And if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to come talk to me and ask me questions, and I'll help you to get plugged into the resources that you need to be able to help you get started on your journey. So whatever you do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Perhaps we'll see you guys in a future class. Be well and take care. Sawadee krab. Sawadee krab. Sawadee krab.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.